My partner of 5 years told me she no longer found me appealing and craved a dominant leader. I responded calmly, acknowledging her words. Then, I accepted the high-profile promotion she believed her new alpha boyfriend was destined to secure at our workplace. When she saw me in the executive office, her face turned ashen as the realization hit that I was now her superior. My girlfriend of 5 years, Sarah, ended our relationship last Tuesday. Since we shared a home, she had the courtesy to break the news in person, but that was the extent of her kindness. She sat me down on the couch in the living room of the house I own and delivered a rehearsed speech. She said she cared for me as a person, but was no longer in love with me. She explained that something had felt off for some time, and then she hit me with the devastating blow. "I'm just not attracted to you anymore, Michael," she said, her gaze carrying a detached sympathy. "I've realized I need a true alpha, someone who takes control, a real leader." The insult was so blunt, so patronizing that I didn't feel anger at first, just a stark clarity. I've always been reserved, not the loudest voice in any room. I don't boast or feel the need to dominate discussions. I lead through competence, solving problems and building systems that function seamlessly. I thought she appreciated that about me. Clearly, I was mistaken. She viewed my quiet strength as inadequacy. I didn't argue or defend myself. I just looked at her, waiting for the rest of it, knowing there was more to come. She took my silence as permission to continue. She admitted she'd been growing close to someone else, Jake, a colleague from our company. For context, Sarah, Jake, and I all work at the same large tech firm. I'm a lead systems engineer, designing the infrastructure for our most intricate projects. Sarah is a project coordinator, so our roles overlap. Jake, meanwhile, is a senior sales executive, a classic alpha stereotype. He's loud, brash, wears tailored suits, and excels at delivering polished presentations. His charisma is undeniable, but I've always questioned his substance. Sarah rambled on about Jake's ambition and relentless drive. Then she revealed the heart of the matter. For the past 2 months, a significant new role had been open at the company, Director of Strategic Operations. It was a major promotion, a leadership position meant to unify the technical, project management, and sales teams. The new director would oversee all 3 departments. With a smug air of excitement, Sarah admitted that Jake was the top contender. She confessed to helping him refine his proposals, sharing insider details from the project management side to bolster his pitch. She was fully invested in his success, envisioning them as the company's new power couple. As she laid out her reasons for deeming me insufficient, I sat silently. When she finished, I looked at her and said calmly, "I understand." My lack of reaction seemed to surprise her, but she took it as resignation. She mentioned needing a couple of weeks to find a new place to live. I nodded. What she didn't know was that senior management had been questioning Jake's suitability. They saw what I saw, plenty of flair but little depth. His strategies dazzled in presentations, but often overlooked critical technical constraints, leaving my team to clean up the mess. About a month earlier, the senior vice president, Robert, had approached me discreetly. He explained that while I wasn't the obvious choice from a sales perspective, I was the only one who truly grasped how the company's components worked together. He offered me the director role. I was reluctant. I loved the hands-on work of engineering and wasn't sure I wanted to navigate corporate politics. I told Robert I needed time to think it over. I hadn't mentioned it to Sarah, as our relationship was already strained and I didn't want to complicate things further. My caution, my need to weigh decisions carefully, was exactly what she saw as a lack of drive. But after her speech, after she labeled me weak and flaunted her new alpha, my doubts evaporated. Declining the promotion would only validate her narrative. Accepting it became a matter of self-respect, not just career advancement. The next morning, I walked into Robert's office. He looked up, surprised. "Michael, what's up?" he asked. "Robert," I replied, "I've thought about your offer. If it's still available, I'll take it." A wide grin spread across his face. "That's the best news I've heard all month," he said, shaking my hand firmly. "We were hoping you'd come around. The announcement will go out company-wide on Monday morning. Welcome aboard, Director." I spent the rest of the day focused and composed. When I got home, Sarah was there, already packing. She was humming, clearly in high spirits. She mentioned a celebratory dinner with Jake planned for Monday evening after the big announcement. She even patted my shoulder and said, "Don't worry, Michael. I've talked to Jake. Once he's director, he'll make sure you're assigned to some high-profile projects. He really values your technical expertise." I nodded and said, "That's kind of you." This weekend, I moved her belongings from the master bedroom to the guest room. She assumed it was just me needing space. She had no idea about the email set to hit every employee's inbox at 9 a.m. Monday. She thought she was aligning herself with a rising star, oblivious to the fact that she was about to meet her new boss. Update 1, * Monday morning arrived with an air of inevitability. The atmosphere at home was heavy with unspoken tension. Sarah, however, was buoyant, chattering more than she had in months about her and Jake's celebratory dinner plans. As we got ready for work, she stood in the bathroom doorway while I shaved, offering unsolicited advice. "You know, Michael," she began, her tone laced with false concern, "you're an excellent engineer, probably the best here, but you lack that leadership spark. You should watch Jake, see how he owns a room. It could help you down the line." I rinsed my razor, wiped my face, and met her eyes in the mirror. "I'll keep that in mind," I said. We drove to work separately, a habit we'd adopted as our relationship frayed. I arrived at my desk by 8:30, cleared some old files, and prepared for the day. Sarah was at her station, chatting animatedly on the phone, likely with Jake. At exactly 9 a.m., a new email popped up on my screen and everyone else's. The subject line read, "Announcement, new Director of Strategic Operations *." I didn't open it, I knew what it said. Instead, I watched Sarah. Her face glowed with anticipation as she clicked the email. Then, in seconds, her expression crumbled. Her skin went from vibrant to ghostly pale. Her mouth dropped open slightly. She blinked, reread the email, then reread it again. Slowly, she looked up, her eyes scanning the room until they met mine. I didn't smirk or gloat. I just held her gaze, calm and neutral. The sight of me composed and already working seemed to snap her out of her shock. She shot up from her chair and stormed toward my desk, drawing attention from colleagues. Her fists were clenched, her body practically trembling with fury. "What is this?" she hissed, her voice low but unsteady. "This is a joke, right? How did you pull this off? You stole this from him?" Her voice grew louder, turning heads. This was the moment, the point where the new dynamic would take shape. I stood slowly, looking down at her, my height giving me a slight advantage. I kept my voice low, forcing her to lean in to hear me, a subtle power shift. "Sarah," I said calmly, "this isn't the time or place for this discussion. My office is always open, but I expect professionalism. We have a project status meeting at 10. I'll see you in the main conference room to discuss any project-related concerns." Her face flushed with anger, but she was speechless. She'd come to confront her ex, the man she'd called weak, only to be addressed as a subordinate by her new boss. Realizing the office was watching her outburst, she spun around and stormed back to her desk. I could only imagine Jake's reaction across the building. His entire persona at the company was built on confidence and the assumption he'd secure the promotion. Losing it, not just losing it, but losing it to me, was a blow to his identity. That evening, the confrontation at home was predictable. Sarah was waiting when I walked in. She accused me of being a deceitful, spiteful manipulator, claiming I'd orchestrated this to humiliate her. I let her vent until she ran out of steam. When she was done, I spoke. "I didn't do this to you, Sarah. I did it for me. You made it clear what you want in a partner, a dominant leader and alpha. You made your choice based on what you thought strength looked like. It seems you bet on the wrong person." I walked past her to the kitchen for a glass of water. "You're right about one thing, though," I continued, my back to her. "Things have changed. It's no longer appropriate for you to live here. This is my house. You have 1 week to find a new place." The fight drained from her, replaced by a growing dread. The reality hit her all at once. Her alpha boyfriend had failed, her power couple fantasy was shattered, and now she was losing her home. Her plan hadn't just failed, it had backfired spectacularly. It's been 2 weeks since my promotion, and the aftermath has been both expected and, in a way, gratifying. The first week was about establishing my authority, and Sarah and Jake didn't make it easy. But their efforts to undermine me only solidified my position. My first act as director was to hold a meeting with the heads of the departments now under my oversight, including Sarah for project coordination and Jake for sales strategy. I wanted to review the entire project pipeline for risks and opportunities. Jake entered with his usual bravado, but it was fragile. Sarah sat at the far end of the table, silent, avoiding my gaze. The meeting focused on a major initiative Jake had championed for months, his flagship project, the cornerstone of his director pitch. Sarah had backed it, ensuring her team prioritized it. When Jake presented, he delivered his typical flashy performance, filled with buzzwords and lofty projections. He finished, expecting praise. Instead, I spoke. "Thank you, Jake," I said evenly. "The projections are bold, but I've reviewed the technical architecture needed to support this plan. Can you go to slide 17, where you outline the data integration process?" He fumbled with the remote, a flicker of unease on his face. He pulled up the slide. "As I see it," I continued, addressing the room, "your strategy hinges on real-time data syncing between our legacy inventory system and the new cloud platform. But the legacy system's API has a 1,000 request per hour limit. Your plan requires at least 10,000 requests per hour at peak times. The system can't handle that. It will crash." I wasn't confrontational. I presented facts, grounded in data. I exposed the fatal flaw in his strategy, one anyone with technical expertise would have spotted, but which Jake, in his sales-driven world, had overlooked. The room fell silent. Jake's face reddened. He mumbled about his consultants assuring him it was feasible. "Then your consultants were mistaken," I said simply. "We need to pause this initiative pending a full technical review. I want a realistic plan on my desk in 2 weeks, not a presentation deck. Sarah, please have your team shift all resources from this project to the Horizon Initiative, effective immediately." Sarah nodded, her face pale, forced to publicly dismantle the project she'd championed as Jake's path to glory. Their next move was to try to garner support. Sarah started venting to her work friends, implying I was creating a toxic workplace and using my new role to punish her for our breakup. It backfired spectacularly at our firm, particularly among the technical teams. Expertise is prized above everything else. They had all endured Jake's dazzling presentations and grappled with the chaotic aftermath of his poorly designed strategies. They valued my work. They saw me terminate a flawed initiative, sparing the company millions in squandered resources. They didn't perceive a vengeful ex-partner. They saw a skilled leader restoring order. Sarah's grievances only painted her as unprofessional and small-minded. Then came their underhanded scheme. Having been outmaneuvered professionally, they resorted to attacking my reputation. One of my previous projects, an intricate software upgrade I had personally engineered, was in its final implementation stage. Late one night last week, someone accessed the system and modified a critical piece of code. The alteration was subtle, not triggering an immediate failure, but designed to cause a severe data integrity issue a week later. It was a calculated attempt to make it appear as though I'd embedded a hidden flaw in the system just before my promotion, casting doubt on my competence to senior leadership. It was a reckless, desperate ploy. The next morning, during a routine inspection, I immediately detected the irregularity in the code. It wasn't my work. The logic was shoddy. I didn't panic or raise the issue with anyone initially. Instead, I went straight to the company's security logs. Every action, every login is recorded with a timestamp. Within an hour, I traced the unauthorized change to 10:47 p.m. the previous night, made under temporary admin credentials. The IP address linked to the login pointed directly to a workstation on the 4th floor, Jake's workstation. I had irrefutable evidence of deliberate corporate sabotage. Jake wasn't merely ineffective, he was a liability. And I had him cornered. Final update: *3 months have passed since my promotion, and the final pieces of Jake and Sarah's saga at our company have settled. After uncovering the sabotage evidence, I didn't confront them directly. That would have been messy and unprofessional. Instead, I acted like the director they claimed I wasn't. I compiled my evidence. The security logs showing the IP address, the timestamp of the unauthorized change, a comparison of the original and altered code, and a concise summary of the potential damage. Then I arranged a meeting with my boss, Robert, and the head of HR. I presented the evidence calmly and objectively, framing it not as a personal matter, but as a grave breach of corporate security and conduct. I stated that a senior employee had deliberately attempted to sabotage a critical company project, posing a significant risk to the business. The response was swift, as expected from a major firm facing an insider threat. HR launched an immediate formal investigation. With the digital evidence, the case was airtight. Jake was summoned to a meeting with HR and legal. He initially tried to deny it, but when shown the logs linking the action to his workstation at a time when security footage placed him in the building, his defense crumbled. He was terminated on the spot for gross misconduct and escorted from the building by security, carrying his belongings in a cardboard box. Being fired for such a serious offense is a career-damaging stain. one that's nearly impossible to overcome. The investigation inevitably turned to Sarah. While there was no direct proof of her involvement in the sabotage, her known relationship with Jake, her public outburst on the day of my promotion, and her complaints to colleagues about a hostile work environment painted a damning picture. She was found to have contributed to a pattern of unprofessional conduct that fostered a toxic workplace. She wasn't fired, but her outcome was arguably worse. She received a final written warning and was reassigned to a low-profile division handling outdated accounts. Her project coordinator title remained, but the projects were insignificant. Her career advancement at the company was permanently halted. She was professionally sidelined, stuck in a dead-end role, stripped of influence or prestige. The power couple was done. Jake was jobless and disgraced. Sarah was marginalized and humiliated. The office rumor mill, as always, filled in the gaps. Jake is reportedly still struggling to land a new role as the story of his departure has spread through our industry. Sarah lasted another month in her new position before quietly resigning, unable to endure the daily humiliation of her demotion or the knowing glances from colleagues aware of the full story. The last I heard, she had left the city. As for me, I'm thriving. My department is running more smoothly than ever. We've successfully rolled out 2 major initiatives, and team morale is strong. The respect I earn from my colleagues comes not from loud boasts or superficial charm, but from consistent leadership and tangible results. My work speaks for itself. Looking back, Sarah was right about one thing. She said she needed an alpha, but her understanding of what that meant was entirely misguided. She was drawn to the flashiest, loudest figure in the room, mistaking his bravado for strength. She failed to see that true strength, true leadership, isn't about the noise you make. It's about the systems you build, the challenges you overcome, and the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you're competent and in control of your own path. She went searching for her alpha and in the end, found one. She just didn't realize it was the man she left behind.